The site had hosted amateur football from the 1860s, but it weren't until 1883 that the ground had a permanent tenant when Darlington FC were formed. With growing crowd figures, the ground was expanded with the construction of the West Stand in the first part of the 1900s, and the Polam end was constructed in 1905. In 1913, a pair of towers were built at the entrance to the ground, and in 1920, offices and changing rooms were built underneath the East Stand. It was also around this time that the town end had terracing built along it so fans could stand behind the town end goal. Following on from the 1920s, not much in terms of development happened at the ground. On the 9th of September 1960, the club installed floodlights. However, after the first game, an electrical fault caused the West Stand to catch fire, and it was gutted. The club rebuilt the West Stand, but instead of coming up with the modern design, they simply built the West Stand as it had stood before the fire. This was due to insurance issues. Following on from the West Stand being rebuilt, not much happened in terms of construction at the ground. In 1997, the club decided to knock down the Aldi stand and build a new stand in its place. The new East Stand was all-seated and made the ground look a bit more modern. However, the construction crippled the club financially, and local businessman George Reynolds came in and saved the club. One of Reynolds' first actions was to clear the club's debts, and then he made the bold ambition that Darlington would play in the Premier League, and he also initiated the construction of a new stadium which would later be known as the Reynolds Arena. Darlington's final ever game at Feethams come on the 3rd of May 2003, where they drew 2-2 against Leyton Orient. Just before moving into their new ground, the club made unsuccessful bids for such international players as Paul Gascoigne and Faustino Asprilla. Even though when Reynolds took over he paid off the club's debts, the cost of building the new stadium, partly financed with high interest loans and built without realistic expectation of filling it, drove the club into administration 6 months later. Reynolds resigned as director in January 2004 with the club under imminent threat of closure. A benefit match featuring footballers such as Paul Gascoigne, Brian Robson and Kenny Dalglish playing in front of a crowd of over 14,000 raised £100,000 to help ensure survival in the short term. As for Feethams, after Darlow left to go to the new grounds, the floodlights at the ground were sold to Workington AFC and the ground was demolished. A housing estate was planned for the cleared site. One quirk about Feethams which was unusual is that after entering the turnstiles through the Twin Towers, spectators had to walk around a cricket pitch in order to enter the ground. For many years, the layout of Feethams also gave supporters the opportunity to change ends at half-time, with home supporters often seen moving from one end of the ground to the other in order to support the end that Darlow were attacking. Looking at some records which happened while Darlow were based at this ground, they recorded their highest ever league finish in the Football League pyramid. They come 15th in the L Division 2 in the 1925-1926 season. The club also recorded their highest ever win in their history at the ground, and this were against Lincoln City on the 7th of January 1928. Darlow won that match 9-2. And the biggest win overall in their history in terms of how many goals they scored also happened at Feethams. This happened on the 24th of October 1891. They defeated Scarborough 13-1 in an FA Cup tie. The record attendance at the ground, and also it's a club record attendance, come in a League Cup match against Bolton Wanderers in the early 1960s, and 21,023 people attended that game. So that concludes my video on Darlington's former home ground, Feethams, where they played from 1883 to 2003. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if you ever went to this ground. I know with Darlow over the last 20 years or so, they've been through hell and back. Of course, they had the Reynolds Arena, then they were drove into the ground by Reynolds himself. And then after that, administration, and then they had to be refounded as a Phoenix club. Darlington 1883, I think they were called. And they've played in a couple of home grounds. they're finally sort of getting back on their feet now, but Reynolds really damaged the club in my personal opinion. I've drove past the Darlington Arena, or as it's been known in the past as Reynolds Arena. I think it's called something else now. It's right on the edge of town. It's kind of in a really weird spot. It's away from everything. I know that they're building sort of houses near it now, and there's a bit more civilization happening out there. But I remember for a while when I used to drive past the ground, it was kind of in the middle of the countryside, not surrounded by anything. It just kind of sits there empty. I think last time I checked, it was used as a COVID vaccination centre or something like that. But his dreams of having Darlington in the Premier League obviously didn't work, and the club's finally getting back on their feet now. They're in the National League North, and hopefully we see Darlington in the Football League again one day. Sorry if I trailed off a bit there, but Darlington's a town very close to where I live, and I've been there quite a few times. I've worked there, and I do have a bit of a connection with the place, so this video is a bit more personal than some of the other videos I do, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. And I've recently got to 1,000 subscribers. Thanks to everyone that's subscribed, and thanks to everyone that's enjoying the video and the channels. It's much appreciated. So this has been History of Football, and I'll catch us all later in the next video. Alright, tatty bye for now.